So for the next 30 minutes, we're going to have a highlight presentation on ENEOLI, which is the acronym for the European Network on Lexical Innovation, and Giovanni Tallarico will be the chair of this presentation. Thank you very much. We're looking forward to it.
Okay, so good morning, afternoon, or evening, according to your time zone. I hope you can hear me all right. Waiting for a sign. Okay.
Sounds good.
Great. So before I start, I'd like to thank the organizers for the great opportunity to have a highlight talk today at this 6th edition of GWLN. You can see quite a lot of co-authors on the slide. Maybe it's not usual for a linguistic paper, but the reason is clear. We are trying to give voice to a large network of research. Ilan and John Humbley will be taking the floor just after me. Let me start with a brief overview of ENEOLI. ENEOLI is the acronym for European Network on Lexical Innovation. It is a Costa action. You can see the code here. It is an interdisciplinary network of research founded by the European Union. And we are proud to show you the URL of our new website, eneoli.eu, but please visit it after the presentation, not during. Our network was launched last October, and it will last until October 2027. We have already quite a lot of participants, actually more than 200. From 47 countries, and the main aim and the main goal of the network is to foster research and lexical innovation across Europe and beyond. As you can imagine, we have also non-European countries in this 47 number here, and actually the adjective European here is not accurate anymore. It was understandable at the beginning when we were looking for funds from the European Union, but now it's larger than that, and we have also members from other continents. The main objective, as I just said, is to establish a network, not only a network, but I would say a research community for exchanging methodologies and best practices in neology research. Neology is quite young as a discipline, or rather a sub-discipline. So in this case, exchange at international level is more than welcome. And the key focus is to enhance understanding of lexical innovation through diverse approaches. Actually, we have 4 main challenges. The first one is to define key concepts in neology through the creation of an open access multilingual glossary. The second challenge concerns methodological implementation. So we would like to share digital resources and tools for tracking and accounting for neologisms and making them available to the international research community. Third challenge is about comparative studies. In this aspect, we would like to investigate the impact of societal and technological transformations and contact-induced language change in a globalized world. Of course, these phenomena are often transversal, so they affect more than one language. This is why comparative studies are necessary. And last but not least, we also cater for professional training. In fact, we would like to develop specific training modules for teachers, translators, lexicographers, and other professionals. In order to do this, we have devised 4 working groups, which are dedicated to the network's main aims that I've just presented. Just to remind you, to enhance terminology, working group 1, whose title is Multilingual Glossary of Neology, led by John Humbley and Salgado. Second, working group number 2, advanced methodological approaches. You can read the title of the working group here, led by Ostroški Anić from Croatia and Federica Vezzani from Italy. Working group 3 is about diachronic and synchronic comparative studies, so a multiple perspective, led by Vincent Balnat from France and Kris Heylen from the Netherlands, or Belgium, both of them. While working 4 is led by Judit Freixa from Spain and Petar Božović from Montenegro. And I would like to thank Kris, Judit, and Petar, and also Anna Salgado for being with us today. Let me go briefly through the first working group, whose title is Multilingual Glossary of Neology. Let me just say that John Humbley is going to present it more in detail in a minute. We are now working on task number 1 and number 2, while the other tasks will be dealt with in the next few years. So it's like a workflow. And you can also see the name of Anna Bakalopoulou, who will be in charge of documentation and guidelines. Working group 2 is about methods, digital resources and tools for diachronic and synchronic studies of neology. Here again, you can see several task groups, also in a workflow structure. The first task is about a survey on lexical innovation methods and practices. Let me add that the survey has just been sent to a pilot group. The results will be analyzed late August, while from September there will be the official release of the survey, which will also be promoted at the next EURALEX conference in Croatia, and the survey will remain open until the end of October. As for this working group, Kris, Heylen, and Ilan Kernerman are coordinating task number 2.5, Neology from a lexicography perspective, and Ilan will tell us more about it in a while. As for working group number 3, it is devoted to comparative studies of neology. It is divided into 6 task groups, and they concern the study of lexical formation, for example, blanks in task group 1, or verb neology in French in task number 6. We are also exploring the link between neology and proper nouns, as well as discursive aspects of neology. For example, you can also read the name of Petar Storion here, who is in charge of task number 3, neology and discourse. Last but not least, as I already said, working group 4 is about training in neology. Of course, before providing such a training, it is necessary to have a status quo analysis, which encompasses needs analysis and literature review. We are trying to define neology competences, and in the next few years, we're going to develop teaching materials and organize a training school. I now leave the floor to John Humbley.
Thank you, Giovanni. My task is to go into a little more detail on the centerpiece of the whole project, that is the glossary, the multilingual glossary of the terms of neology or lexical innovation. And I'd like to start off by the surprise that we had that there is no dictionary of neology or lexical innovation available in any language. We'd love to be proved wrong, but we still haven't found one. We found one 30-term glossary in Portuguese and nothing else. And this is surprising from several points of view. One point of view is that there are dictionaries of linguistics, and there have been dictionaries of linguistics around for a long time. So if we just take the case of French, There's been a major dictionary of linguistics available since 1933. And in the 1960s, there was a whole spate of publication of dictionaries of linguistics authored by the leading linguists in France at the time. But in a way, this is perhaps not so surprising, because the publication or the need to publish specialized dictionaries in linguistics was motivated in the 1930s by the fact that linguistics was moving out of philology into what we know as linguistics now. So a dictionary was available to chart these this new discipline, which went mainstream in the 1960s, when linguistics became not only an autonomous discipline in its own right, but a key discipline in the human sciences. Not only are there dictionaries of linguistics that exist, but of all the offshoots of linguistics as well. In particular, translation studies, which have their dictionaries, lexicography, which have dictionaries, encyclopedia, but no dictionary for neology as such. But who would benefit from a dictionary of neology? Well, obviously, the specialists in their own right, lexicographers, terminologists, linguists in general, will be interested in a closer view of what the terms of neology actually entail. But the general public is also interested. And just to take the case of France here, every year, all the big dictionaries, the four main dictionaries, publish an update. So there's a Petit Larousse illustré of every year. And the new words that go into the dictionaries make the headlines of the mainstream press. So there's a general public interest and awareness which could be fostered. And of course, it's obvious that the main beneficiaries would be communication specialists, technical communicators, translators, journalists, teachers, etc., who not only use neology, often without realizing it, but are often the creators of neology themselves, also without recognizing it. Okay, could we have the next slide, please, Giovanni? Okay, so why do we need a glossary? As we said, neology is a new field with new terms to account for it. One question that we're asked about this when we talk about this project to other linguist colleagues is, are you actually dealing with neology or lexical innovation? And the answer, of course, is not a choice, but both. And that's the whole reason that we're working on this, because we're looking at the same object, but we're looking at it from different angles. And so the glossary is going to be there to describe these different angles. And this is all the more necessary as traditions vary from country to country, and we think we've understood one another, and in fact we haven't. So it's partly language dependent, but it's partly also universal. And so to sum up, what we're trying to do is to imitate our predecessors in the 1930s and 60s and produce a document which will enhance the visibility and autonomy of neology or lexical innovation as a branch of linguistics. Good. Next slide, please. So here is where we are up to at the moment. And I'll concentrate more on the pilot study, which is in process at the moment. We started off with a limited corpus that the Lambert-Lucas editions have confided in us. And this consists of 6 major works on neology in French, over the last 4 or 5 years. And this corpus has been treated with AntConc and Sketch Engine to extract the terminology. which has been analyzed into keywords, both monolexical and polylexical, and the n-grams, the result of which has been validated or is in the process of being validated by a team of experts, experts being the experts, the specialists in French language terminology who are already part of ENEOLI. Then the terms are, the equivalents of the terms are found in English and the other language. And parallel to this, the work is being done on the corpus, the neocorpus, which is a Zotero corpus, multilingual corpus with books and articles on neology in all the languages represented. There are about 30 languages represented so far. We lose count. And at the moment, we are adding, or we have just added, several theses as a contribution to what is at the moment the cutting edge of research in neology. And this is all coming together in NeoVoc, which is and will be the multilingual vocabulary of neology. So this, in a word, is the workflow of the pilot study and the groups working around it. Okay.
Task 2.5 is led by Kris, Heylen, and me. Sorry, it's 2 slides forward. Giovanni, is it from your side? I think we need... Right, thank you. So we're focusing on the lexicographic perspective of neology, and we're comparing lexicographic treatment across dictionaries and languages. Our workflow, it involves analysis of how this is done by different institutes and projects. The current year is focused on the selection criteria. The second year will focus on the description, and the third year following up on lexical innovations in their databases and dictionaries. Our aim is to compile a data set that will be publicly available to provide systematic and structured overview of current and best practices, while we focus on the editorial decisions and choices made by the lexicographers and editorial boards of dictionaries. Next slide, please. So this first year, regarding the inclusion and exclusion criteria, we are looking at the methodology, the analysis of existing literature on lexicography, the analysis of the internal selection guidelines of different dictionaries, and questionnaire to lexicographers and others who are involved in this, which is part of the survey, which was described by Giovanni, taking part in working group 2, in the same working group, task 1. Our goal is to generate an integrated typology of neology selection criteria for lexicographic databases that can be serving as a reference point for lexicographers and as orientation for other tool developers that are related to this and data analysts. Next slide, please. What we started doing is having presentations by members of our task. So far, we've had 2, by Judit Freixa and by Lars Trapp Jensen and Erik Lorentzen. And these have provided very interesting insights on criteria for the selection. And I'd like to read to you what Kris has very nicely summarized about these 2 presentations so far. It's interesting to see here a selection criteria from a well-known classification in the scientific literature. We are referring to Freixa from 2022, which also returns in the practical work of the Danish dictionary, the DDO, in that they have a nice tool for that. As we could expect in both of them, some form of frequency, cutoff, and recency criterion were used. Both also had semantic and thematic criteria, but they were implemented quite differently from each other. Judit Freixa has referred to a complete thematic fields deemed particularly out of date in the work being updated as a top-down editorial decision, whereas in the presentation regarding the Danish dictionary, Larsen Henrik demonstrated a tool that is based on word embeddings that showed which words within a lexical field were not yet in the DDO, in their Danish dictionary, and then the individual lexicographer can take this into account. Our next presentations will be about such work of criteria in Korea and then in Germany. Next slide, please, Giovanni. Thank you. The second year, then, the focus is on the descriptive practices, the Neology specific data and categories in the microstructure, analysis of the data models that underlie dictionaries, collaboration with multilingual glossary in working group 1 on the terms used for the data categories. In the third year, we are planning to look at the follow-up practices, what actually happens after neologisms are included in dictionaries, how systematic are the entry updates, what happens regarding those that are no longer relevant, and the analysis of dictionary revision policy. In the fourth year, we will be looking at a summary of these things and looking ahead, and that brings us back to Giovanni talking about the future.
Thank you, Ilan. Just a single slide about the conclusions. There are quite a few challenges that are awaiting. The first of which is about ensuring long-term impact and utility of the multilingual glossary. As you can see, quite a lot of countries are already represented, but we have potential for including more languages and more countries to account for linguistic diversity. Of course, we would like to strengthen international research networks, and we think we can do that through participation to thematic workshops such as GWLN, but not only. We have also we have already some ideas for next year, and you can see here that one of the Costa actions aims is to foster young researchers' careers. So we are really eager to receiving your applications from all around the world. You can find all the information on our website. I could also see that Ostroški from Working Group 2 has joined us. So all the working groups are represented here. We are ready. We are eager to receiving your questions and feedback, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, all of the colleagues who participated in this presentation. Thank you very much for a very informative and interesting presentation. I think it's a fascinating subject. So we are waiting for any questions, any comments, any contributions from the floor. Yes, thank you. There's a question at the back. Masibidi Sataka from South Africa. Just hang on, we'll bring you a mic.
Thank you very much for that beautiful presentation. It's quite interesting on my side coming from South Africa, because I've always wondered how were neologisms actually being treated, you know. And as I'm listening to the presentation, I'm actually questioning myself even more, especially in the context of most of the South African dictionaries not being regularly updated. My concern is, where do the neologisms actually lie in terms of which ones are making it into the languages, how are they being recorded? So I think this presentation is actually could be a blueprint actually even for the South African languages as well, so that we can be able to see how can we use such strategies to try and map the language, the words that are making it into the dictionaries, those ones that some are even not even in the dictionaries but in the languages, because there are some that are also now being pushed out. But now, how are we actually working around that in terms of understanding the scope of these words into our languages? And I really think it's a nice research subject.
Question, thank you. From Professor Rufus Gous, also from South Africa.
Thank you very much. I would like to respond to the remark. On Monday at a pre-conference workshop here in Pretoria, SADILAR, that's the South African Digital Language Resources, addressed the whole issue of a term bank that includes terminology for specialized languages, and neology was mentioned as one of the fields that really needs a lot of attention. So currently work is really being done to ensure that in the first instance neology as a field comes to the fore, and the application of that would then be a better lexicographic presentation and treatment of neologisms also in general language dictionaries. So things are going, fortunately.
Thank you very much for that feedback, Professor Gous. Can I ask, is South Africa part of this initiative?
Yes, Rufus House is actually one of the representatives.
Okay, thank you. Colleagues, there doesn't seem to be any other questions. So what remains is to thank everybody for their attendance and also for the presenters. And I will then hand over the chair to one of my colleagues. Thank you very much.